This presentation is about the election campaign and the historic win of the NDP leader of Wab Kinew as the first Indigenous Premier of Manitoba. The election campaign of Manitoba began on September 5th with the voting date of October 3rd and early voting on September 25th. At the start of the campaign, the Progressive Conservatives held power with Heather Stefanson as the premier, and the official opposition was New Democratic Party with Wab Kinew as their leader. While most provincial elections do get some national coverage, this one received more, as there were many signs that the PC party would not be able to hold power and NDP would win. This would be historic, as Wab Kinew would be the first Indigenous person to be a premier. Both national broadcasters reported on the campaign. Local and national newspapers, radio, and all social media platforms had coverage. The mediums used in this presentation are CBC Listen Radio, online news coverage by CBC, Globe and Mail, Winnipeg City News, and social media platform YouTube. Online news is easily accessible for people to find. The national news providers such as Globe and Mail and CBC followed the campaign. The Globe and Mail had a September 25th article that described the leader's background and their election platform. While being in politics means that your life is made public, Wab Kinew's personal life and struggles kept appearing in articles. The Globe and Mail biographical section detailed Wab Kinew's past and how the PC party were using smear campaigns in Manitoba. The CBC also posted an article on the first day of the campaign, and it detailed his unlikely path from rapper, reporter to politician vying to be the next Manitoba premier. The CBC interviewed an assistant professor from the University of Manitoba and focused on how it will be difficult for Wab to balance being Indigenous and being the premier. These national news articles were different compared to the local Winnipeg News, City News. It also did biographical article on all three leaders and was done without bias, and it just detailed all three leaders. The national public broadcaster CBC had radio coverage for the election campaign. On September 18th, Marcy Marcusa did a segment about how the people are voting and asked if they would switch who they usually vote for. It was a very informative segment, and people responded that the leaders' platforms would impact their vote. Marcy also did sit-down interviews with each of the party leaders. On September 26th was her 11-minute interview with Wab Kinew. She kept the interview about the party platform, and Wab detailed his main focus, which is healthcare, and how the NDP would fund their election promise. The interview was in a relaxed setting and the focus was very informative. At the end of the interview, Marcy asked how he would feel if he won the election and be the first Indigenous premier. And Wab explained that he wanted to be the premier for everyone, and that is why his election promise is to make life better together. This contrasts with Matt Galloway's show, The Current, which aired on September 25th and had a political panel discuss the election campaign. While there was conversation about all parties, Wab Kinew's past and his heritage was brought up, and the past of other candidates wasn't, and neither was their heritage. YouTube had many videos posted on site. For these video articles, I chose the acceptance speech that CTV News posted, the swearing-in ceremony that CBC did, and a segment from APTN News after the cabinet selection. These videos were posted from their programs, allowing people to view it. The acceptance speech after he was elected is full of energy. His message of hope, change, and working together was positive and powerful. The coverage of the swearing in was more informative. It described the ceremony and the different parts of the ceremony that highlighted it being the first Indigenous leader of a province. And the APTN news video, the day after his cabinet was sworn in, the two people that were interviewed were happy about the diverse cabinet. They're optimistic about the future of Manitoba under the new leader. There was a commentary about whether the success would be replicated in other provinces. The traditional and social mediums chosen for this story had more similarities than differences. The election campaign was followed through the entire cycle and focused on both the leader and the election platform. The main difference was that national news brought up more personal issues for Bob Canoe than the local news did. As this would be the first time an Indigenous person would be voted into position of premier in a Canadian province, it made national news. Unfortunately, that meant more scrutiny. In social media, the traditional mediums posted their videos onto the different social media sites. However, the difference with social media is that the comment section allows for more people to get involved. The views make it more accessible to more people, and the story keeps growing and continuing, which is similar to more traditional mediums, as headlines are extremely important to grab people's attention for an article. Marshall McLuhan coined the phrase "medium is the message" in his book, Understanding Media, the Extension of Man. In his book, he describes how medium used to communicate the message is more important than the actual message. He detailed that the content of the message can be changed by whichever way it is shared. In the instance of Bob Canoe, the message of his being the first Indigenous premier, the medium put out the message of change in Manitoba and to see if people were ready for it. Social media allows people to become the message as they comment, and it's really easy to see how the message changes with the comments. And this is what he meant. The medium has the ability to change the message. So thank you for listening.